Are you a fan of horror movies?
Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead.
What about cult classics?
Your move, creep.
If you are, you'll love Shocking Things. Please search for us on all the major podcasting platforms. To see our social media and a direct link to our podcast, please go to anchor.fm/shockingthings.
WWF superstar and New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, Mario Mancini. How are you, sir?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm awesome, dude. I'm very glad to be sitting here with you. It's something I wanted to do for a very, very long time.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First, basically, I just want to ask you some questions about your career, and then we can find out what you're doing today.
Sure.
Is that cool? All right. Tell me. So I know that you grew up during the 70s, which was possibly one of the greatest eras of professional wrestling, and you were a big, Bruno Sammartino fan.
Yes.
And then you met Tony Altamore, correct?
I did.
So tell me about that, how you ended up meeting him and getting him to train.
In 1980, wrestling only came on at midnight, and I was sitting there watching it, and Vince McMahon popped on in an empty arena with Bruno Sammartino, and I was 14 years old. And he basically said, "Bruno, you have something to tell everybody." And he said, "Yeah, I'm retiring. I'm all done." And I was extremely upset. And I had 5 other siblings and my mother and father in the living room. And I said, "I'm going to be a professional wrestler." I said, "I'm going to be a pro wrestler for the WWF." And they thought I was nuts. And I said, "No, I'm going to take Bruno's spot. I'm going to replace Bruno." It ended up that I replaced Frank Williams, not Bruno.
It's funny you mentioned that name. I got an old program recently. I collect a lot of programs and magazines, and they were talking about young up and comers, and Frankie Williams was one of the guys that were featured. Like he was gonna, predicting the big stars of the future. So
I have to tell you, which is the exact same thing that happened to me, because when I started doing house shows, I'd be walking out to my car and I'd greet fans, and they go, "Wow, you can wrestle." I'd be like, "Thank you so much." Because house shows, thank God you get 50-50, right? But on TV, if you got up to get something to drink, you missed my match. So, that happened with me with Frank Williams, because as I sat there in, 1982 in the New Haven Coliseum, he was the first match out, and I went, "Oh, geez." You know what I mean? Because I was used to seeing him get killed in 2.5 minutes on TV. And he had like a 15-minute match, and he was an excellent wrestler.
Yeah.
He's an excellent wrestler. So he was an excellent worker. So, I have a lot of respect for him. And, like I said, though, in one of those New Haven shows in 1983, a guy got in the ring to be a referee. And I was there with my family and my mom and dad at, the second row. And, I was born and raised till I was 10 years old in Stamford, Connecticut. But my mother and father were born in Stamford, Connecticut, and went to grammar school with Tony Altamore. This I didn't know. So when he got in the ring, my father stood up and said, "Tony, hey, Tony." And he looked back and he said, "Hey, Ralph, Gloria, how you doing?" I go, "You know that guy?" So I ended up following him around for a couple of months until he gave in, and he let me come to the New Haven Coliseum a couple of months later in the afternoon when the ring was up. And That's when I saw who would end up being a very close brother of mine, Seth Cohen, who worked as Robbie Parliament in the WWF.
Okay.
He was there getting drop kicked from the top rope by Kurt Hennig. This was in 83.
His first run there. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and
Yeah.
Kurt just kept going to the top and drop kick. Fuji was showing him how to drop kick off the top rope. And I went there and did some stuff, and then he said, I'm opening up a wrestling school in October in Orange at a gym called Pastorello's Quest. So that that's where I went. Seth was there, and Dave Barbie showed up, AJ Petrucci.
I remember those names.
And a few months later, Roma showed up, and the rest is history. Rita Marie showed up. Rita's going to be at Dieselmania.
Okay, cool.
She's coming down. She showed up, and then Ted Arcidi showed up, and JT Southern showed up, and then Steve Blackman showed up, and then Russ Greenberg showed up, and Mark Thomas, then Paul Perez showed up, and Dave Paradise showed up, Big Steve, and this is all between like 84 and 88, and I got done with wrestling school July 31st of 84, 6 weeks after I graduated from high school, and 6 weeks after I turned 18, and at July 31st at the Poughkeepsie Mid-Hudson Civic Center, I turned pro against Greg Valentine.
I was going to ask you about that. How was that? That being your first match, did you have, say, first match jitters working in front of a large crowd?
Well, the funny part, Valentine loves this story. It's one of his favorite stories. And I told it at a very intimate question and answer session when I got inducted into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2014. And I remember it step by step, Rick, because an AJ Petrucci will confirm the story to be true. So when we were in wrestling school, we were friends. So we were told that we're sparring, and we're only sparring because we're training. But when we turn pro, we're really going to apply this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we believed it. So when I got accepted by the WWF, I was told to go downstairs and sign my contract with Gorilla Monsoon. And I did. And I met Chief Jay Strongbow for the first time, who became my second father for 28 years. And I said, Mr. Strongbow, what would you like me to do? He said, see that chair? Sit down and shut up. So I sat there and kept my mouth shut. I didn't move. Meanwhile, inside of me, while I'm watching S.D. Jones walk by, and Tito Santana and Greg Valentine and Don Morocco and the Iron Sheik and Volkov, and I was just, it was my first day there, so I tried, I did a good job keeping a poker face, like, hey, I belong there, but I was freaking out,
Oh yeah.
When I saw Bruno, forget it. I had to really keep myself under control. So a little time went by, and I looked up at the board, and I saw my name up there spelled wrong against Valentine. So I went up to Strongbow, and I said, Mr. Strongbow, goes, what? I said, you spelled my name wrong on the board. And he goes, you really think that makes a difference? You really think that makes a difference? I go, it does to me. He goes, sit down and shut up.
Wow.
So now Altamore came walking in, and Chief called me over, and he said, go talk to Valentine. I said, why? I'm wrestling him. I don't want to talk to him. And he kind of gave a glance over at Tony. Tony kind of did a I said, Mr. Strongbow, is this a title match or a non-title match? Because he was the Intercontinental Champion. I said, because I'm going to beat him. I'll beat him. I'm going to beat him. And Strongbow looked over at Altamore and Tony. I heard Tony grunting. Ugh. So now it was time to expose the business. So he puts his arm around me and we walk in the corner. He goes, listen, just go talk to Valentine. I said, T, I don't want to talk to him. He goes, listen, kid, just go talk to Valentine. So I went over to him. I go, I am Mario Mancini. He goes, ugh. So I'm wrestling. I'm not, we're working together. I'm wrestling you.
Right.
He goes, just keep your legs as loose as possible, like spaghetti, he said, because if they're stiff, you're going to hurt yourself. I'm not going to hurt you. And I just stared on it. And inside, I went, oh, no, it can't be. It can't be, right? So that split second, I had to accept it, that split second. So I accepted it. And I said, do I get a comeback? He said, absolutely. I said, what can I do? He said, after you submit to the figure 4, get off the canvas and come back to the dressing room. And I said, okay. So I went out there and I did the job. Before we went out there, we were on the top steps behind the big metal doors in Poughkeepsie. And Tony Altamore was in the gorilla position. And I was standing on behind the door. It was me, Lou Albano, and Valentine. And Altamore was seated. And Valentine looked over at me and went, how many matches have you had? I said, this is my first professional match ever. And he did a lurch, from the Addams Family. Just, and Albano started laughing. Said, you'll be all right, kid. You'll be all right. And Altamore took the, thing away from his mouth. And he said, listen, he goes, no rib. This kid's good. And Valentine just gave a nod. And we went out there and I did what I had to do. I sold the daylights out of the figure 4. I mean, if you have more capabilities than I do, it's either Wrestling Challenge or Superstars of Wrestling, but the air date is 8/18/84.
I think I came across it today. Somebody made a compilation where they put like an hour's worth of your matches together.
Yeah,
and I think it's like one of the earliest ones on that thing.
Yeah, it's 8/18/84, and I think even Valentine was a little thrown back how I sold that figure 4 because I didn't want anybody. As I saw as my career went on, the first 2 years, there were plenty of guys that went out there once, and they were never asked to come back, and they never came back. And I didn't want to be. I wanted to stay, and I just signed a contract. So but it wasn't the same contract that Hogan signed. It was just a contract that said that Vince McMahon owned my name, lock, stock, and barrel.
Okay.
And I would never be paid less than $50 for a wrestling match.
Oh my God.
Right. So.
But it's 1984 though, so
right.
I mean it's a little bit better than today's standards.
Right. So. My second match was in West Warwick, Rhode Island, August 9th, 1984, at the West Warwick Music Theater that isn't there anymore. And I worked with David Schultz that night, and he broke my nose in 2 places.
Oh my God.
Just a hazing in the professional wrestling. But he thought I was a local yokel from Rhode Island. He thought I was some sort of fill-in, and then 2 days later, I got it reset, and I was on the couch, and I got a call, and they had called because David just lived in Woodbridge. Yep. They had called him down to the office in Greenwich at the time on Arch Street. Such a tiny building. I wish I'll show it to you someday. Had 3 floors. My mother answered the phone and she goes, Dr. D's on the phone. So I got up and got the phone and I said, hello. And he said, hey, boy, how you doing? I said, okay. How's your nose, man? He said, it's okay. He goes, your face got kind of way in my fist. And 3 weeks later, they put me on TV with them in Hamilton, Ontario. And I knew that was a test, and I knew if I took my boots off or I told one person I refused to work with them, then I didn't belong there.
Right.
So I just went into a stall and got my gumption up, and I went up to him. I said, you can break it again if you want. I really don't care. Now, boy. He goes, now. He goes, I tell you what. I'm going to apologize to you on national TV. Now, you got to remember, I'm a new 18-year-old. So I go, really? Oh, yeah, boy. I'm sorry I broke your nose. I'm gonna apologize to you on national TV. I go, okay. This is on YouTube. So I get in the ring, and he's in the ring, and the bell starts for the match to start. And sure enough, he comes up to me, and he shakes my hand. And he goes, sorry for breaking your nose. And he smacked me dead across my face.
Did he break it again?
No,
No.
No. But I tell you what, it was a good TV match. It was great. And I'm happy to say that I have a lot of love in my heart for Dr. D David Schultz today. We text on occasion.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
he's a very nice man. He's a gentleman. He's a great husband. He's a great father. He's just a good human being. And not a lot of people know that because, Doc doesn't want a lot of people to know that because he's Dr. D, but he
kept that character like outside. One of the things I want to mention before you can continue was like I grew up in Woodbridge when he lived there. So, and there was a gas station down the street from my road that had pictures of him hanging up in there because he lived in the town. They were all excited. So, it was right off exit 59 off Route 15. That gas station that was there.
Yeah, we text every now and then. You know what I mean? He'll come in and say how you doing and everything, and I'll I always hope he's doing okay. And the man did me the biggest favor of my life because guys in my position don't hang around too long. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate to be there from 1984, from July of 84 to April of 92. And Schultz breaking my nose so soon and me coming back to work with him again, gave me some respect because as David Schultz told that cameraman before he hit him, he said, because this is a tough business. That's why you ain't in it. And this guy holding the camera, he ain't in it because it's a tough business. And I proved that I can be tough in it. I mean, after that, I was in battle royals where I got chopped by everyone. I got chopped so badly. One night in a battle royal, my chest was bleeding down my stomach, down to my knee, down to my knee pads. And after the first year, it was over. And I got, everybody was very light with me because I think Strongbow went around and said, the kid paid his dues and he got his break in and everything. And David started that for me by breaking my nose. So I'm glad he did it. I got it over with early and he's the one that did it. And, he saved me probably a lot more beatings in the future because everybody knew that Schultz broke my nose. Right. but I'm thankful for him breaking my nose. He eventually ended up coming in Quest and having his own wrestling school. I did shoot with him a few times in the school, and I just would never shoot with him again because let me tell you something. David Schultz could wrestle.
Yeah.
David Schultz taught me that I could just put my elbow on somebody's back
Mm-hmm.
and they can't move.
Yep.
David Schultz taught me that I can just put my chin in a place on somebody's back and they can't move. You know what I mean? And, those very few times I went in there with him, I learned a lot. It hurt. It was almost the Stu Hart style of shooting. It wasn't fun, but I did it and I went through it. And he taught me a lot those 2 or 3 times I went in there. And then he'd be having his class and I'd be there working out. He go, "Hey, Mancini, why don't you come on in?" I go, "No thanks, Doc." But he taught me a lot. And one thing about David is he is a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is a tough son of a bitch to this day. I don't care how old he is. You know what? If he said, "Man, see, I'm a beat your ass," you'd see one fat guy start running fast. You know what I mean? Because David Schultz truly is. He's a man's man. He's tough. Listen, I saw Schultz in Poughkeepsie in the dressing room shooting with Hulk Hogan on the rug, on the carpet, on top of him, and Hogan going, let me go, let me go, let me go, let me go. Because he had him and he wouldn't let him go. Hogan couldn't move. I saw that with my own eyes. So David Schultz is one of my favorite people. God bless him. And, God bless his family. I won't even mention them by name because that's not even David Schultz, but I know their names. I'm just going to say God bless him because he'll text me and go, "Boy, you say the name of my wife and kid on them." You know what I mean? So, God bless him and his family. And, I hope he always does well. He was an extreme talent in this wrestling business. He could have rivaled any heel in the business ever for a long period of time. And he got screwed.
You did.
He got screwed. But in the true spirit of David Schultz, he picked up another profession by bounty hunting, and you know what? Probably made more money doing that than he did in the wrestling business. And a lot of times he got to sleep home in his bed. So God bless him and good for him. I love David Schultz, one of my favorite people. I'm glad I was able to see him before the pandemic. I think it was 2018 in New Jersey. And
That's when his book came out, I think, right?
oh
Around that
yeah,
time.
that's when his book
Yep.
came out. And if David Schultz, you're on the phone with David Schultz, says, "Hey boy, come up to my room. This is my room number." That means you're his friend, man, because he doesn't do that. So, of course, every time I see him in person, I cover my nose with my left hand and I got my right hand out to shake his hand, and he starts laughing, But he's very dear to me. David Schultz means a lot to me. So, hope
He
he's doing
defended
well.
he defended the business for years and years and years after, I guess it had kind of been exposed on like Morton Downey, stuff like that. And he went nuts. And, I mean, I consider the John Stossel thing, to me, that personally, I thought that was like the greatest moment in professional wrestling history.
And I got
And
news for you, Rick. So did the boys. So did
yeah,
every single one of them because he was protecting the business.
yeah,
He's
absolutely.
the one that took the step to do it. And you know what? He was told to do it
Yeah. And then
by,
things,
by the man himself. He said, "If this guy gives you any stuff, let him have it." And David said, "Do you have my back?" And he said, "Yes." He came up to him and he said, "I think it's fake. You think it's fake?" Boom, boom. And nobody had his back. everybody turned on him, and that was the end of that. And
Were you there for that? Did you see that happen?
I did. No, I did not see that. Strangely enough, where I even shocked myself, this is ridiculous. One day, I was on YouTube and I decided to watch the birth of Hulkamania, and Sheik was thrown out of the ring after the match, and I saw myself grab him around the shoulders, and I went, I was there.
You don't remember?
Listen, it was the most eerie feeling of my life, and I remember everything. As you can tell, I got dates and everything.
Yeah.
I can remember everything, and I didn't remember that. And I said, that was January of '84, 7 months before I broke in. And then I was there for the war to settle the score, holding back Piper. And I was very fortunate to I have to thank Tony Altamore, because he's the one that would always say, "Kid, come on, you want to go to the Garden?" And after I turned pro, one of those times when he said, "Hey, kid, come on, you want to go to the Garden?" Vince McMahon said, "Get dressed. I need you." I said,
Okay.
"Okay."
Yeah.
Who am I working with? Tony Atlas. I go, "Okay." So I was very fortunate to have Tony Altamore there for me. Unfortunately, we had a falling out in '89, and that's when the owner of the gym said, "Listen, either you're going to take over the wrestling school, or I'm selling the ring and putting more equipment there." And I said, no, I'll take it. So at the age of 23 years old in 1989 is when I actually started teaching a wrestling school.
I remember hearing about that when I remember hearing about it when I was younger. Like, my uncle would tell me about it.
Yeah. So I did it until '92.
Mm-hmm.
They sold the gym. I really didn't get along with the new owner. And then Roma came in briefly, but then he got a call from the WCW and he went there. So, and I think they just turned it into a boxing school or something. But
Yeah, I think they moved to West Haven as well, right?
right, Campbell Avenue. And
yeah.
Every now and then I take my kids there. It's a Taekwondo studio, and
Gotcha.
we peek through the door and I show them where the ring was. And the only thing I regret with Kenny Passarello is there was a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the ring, and it was the Wall of Fame. And I signed it, and AJ Petrucci signed it, Dave Barbie, Seth signed it, and then the WWF came in to do a promo for Hogan training Hillbilly Jim, and Hogan signed it, Hillbilly Jim signed it, Vince McMahon signed it, Mean Gene Okerlund signed it, and then the guys came in and trained, and Greg Valentine signed it. And but I just wish I knew that was happening, because I would have went there with a sheetrock cutter and cut that square right out. But
right,
it's gone.
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That'd be a really great collector's piece for, especially today. It's a golden age like that era of professional wrestling collectibles. It's like people are going crazy for these days.
Well, yeah.
So let's see, what else do I have here? So let's see. All right, we already talked about Valentine. What was it like? You worked the first matches for guys like King Kong Bundy and Hart Foundation, and of course, obviously, The Undertaker. So what was it like working with these gentlemen?
Well, I got to tell you, March of '85,
mm-hmm.
I walk into Poughkeepsie now, like I've been there for 10 years, and I've started a relationship with Strongbow, Tony Altamore gave me a secret. He goes, if you go to a house show and Strongbow's the agent, always have a sausage and pepper sub for him. So I'd walk in with a sausage and pepper sub and go, Chief, you got this for me? I go, yeah, it's for you, because Chief is Italian,
Yep.
So I walk in there. Bundy is in a pair of white, what do you call those? White slip-on sneakers. What do you call those? Like boat shoes or something?
Yeah.
A pair of jeans, in a Fruit of the Loom t-shirt. And I look up at the board and it says Bundy v. Mancini. And I look over at him and he's like this. So I walk over and I go, Bundy? He goes, Chris. I go, I'm Mario Mancini. I'm working with you. Strongbow walks over and he goes, Chris, I put you one of the best guys we have. He's going to get you over big. And he walked away. And I saw the size of this guy, and I said to myself, either he's going to work with me or he's going to kill me. And I said, Chris, listen to me. I'm going to sell for you hard. I know what to do. I said, you just push me off. I said, I'll grab your leg, bring it back, throw it up, I'll go flying. I said, a tackle, I'll take a bump off a tackle. Big guy stuff, I said, if you can picture the grand finale at a 4th of July firework display, that's what I'm going to sell like. I said, Chris, listen to me. You don't have to kill me. I'm going to sell for you. He said, okay. He goes, I had your job here a few years ago. I was a jobber here. And Chris Palales. So he was a jobber there. And he had long hair.
I did see him with hair when he wrestled in Texas. He had a different name. I can't remember right at this present moment, though. I don't remember.
I don't know.
Something. It was something Bundy.
I don't know if it was Chris Cannon or I don't know. But
yeah, I don't remember.
So we got in there, and he was stiff as a board.
Oh my God!
And he leaned me in that back of that top rope, and he brought that forearm down. I went, oh God! And he was just another guy I became very close to. Worked a house show with him in 1999 for another company, and I got there, big hug, and I said, we're working tonight.
Would that be the NAWA? Is that what
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I remember. I remember him working there. Yeah.
And he said, and I'm putting you over for what you did for me in New York. He goes, just move on the splash, the avalanche, and just cover me. I said, that's not happening. He goes, this is your payback for what you did for me in New York. Because I worked with him several times. One was a stretcher. I said, I want to put aside the friendship. Let's look at us like comic book characters. Underdog doesn't beat the Incredible Hulk. I said, Mario Mancini does not go over on King Kong Bundy. It just doesn't happen. That's not the character.
Right.
He goes, why do you have to have such a hard head? I said, well, just go out there and heal it up. I'll take care of the rest. Right. So now he comes back after intermission and he looks at me and he goes, I need to talk to you. I go, yeah. He goes, I went out for intermission. I went, sold a lot of 8x10s, met a lot of people, cracked a lot of jokes. I go, I'm the heel. He goes, yeah. I go, I'm the heel. You're the baby face and I'm the heel. He said, yeah. I said, okay. So we went out there and Bundy came out and he grabbed the microphone and he said, hey, Mancini, if I poked you in your stomach, would you go, hey? And I kicked the bottom rope and I started going crazy. And, I did. When I'm a heel, I do my best Don Morocco I can do. Because to me, Don Morocco was a great heel. So I try to do, when I'm a heel, any match I was ever a heel, I tape my wrist, tape my fingers, I did do that 10 minutes to 2 walk, and I did the best Morocco I can do. I got picked off a couple times by the guys in the dressing room and said, that was Morocco. And I go, you bet your ass it was. You know what I mean? So, except for one match at the Mohegan Sun, I against Gibbs, I tried to figure out who I could copy to get this over, because at my age, the storyline of the match would have to be bigger than the wrestling moves because I'm an old man. So I thought of Baron Miguel Cicluna, how he would beg for his life in the ring and just cheap shot the guy all the time. And God bless Paul Perez. The second I went back to the dressing room, he looked at me, he goes, "You just robbed Cicluna." And I went,
You knew that.
"Perez, are you kidding me?" He goes, "That was Baron Miguel Cicluna." I said, "It absolutely was."
Wow.
So yeah, Perez picked me off, man. It was amazing.
He's got a big knowledge too. His whole family was involved in
Yeah, more than me,
professional.
man. And he always shakes his head no. You know,
Mhm.
he had the fastest pirouette elbow I've ever seen anybody drop. He was just a master in the ring, man. He was just such a great mechanic, a great wrestler.
Mhm.
He was a lot better than I was. And he'd always, "Oh no, I like it, Perez. You're a great wrestler,
He's
man."
he's humble, but
Yeah.
he wasn't around too long though, right?
I think he was around maybe from 80, late 88, early 89 to like 91.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know he wrestled elsewhere though, right? Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perez did a lot of wrestling. I remember when he first came into the wrestling school, and I did to him what I did to everybody. But yeah, okay, let's see what we got.
Yeah.
And we got in the ring, and I started calling everything. And he just started doing everything. And he started doing everything, and it was 100% right. And when I got done with him after a half hour, we were sitting on the apron. I go, "You want to go to TV?" And he went, classic Perez style. He goes, "Okay." And
That relaxed.
Chief loved him. Strongbow
Really?
loved Perez. He loved Perez because Perez never said a damn thing. Never, never, never. You could never get anything out of Perez. Nothing. That's why at Paradise Alley, our saying is this: if Perez has something to say, something has to be wrong.
Right.
Because Perez doesn't say anything.
Wow. Yeah, he doesn't really, he's very friendly gentleman. He'll sit
Yeah,
there and say hello, but it's not a lengthy conversation. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So,
Again, one of my closest brothers in the business, man. I love Perez. I love Perez.
so you appeared on you, Roma, and Steve Lombardi all appeared on Tuesday Night Titans as the unsung heroes. Tell me what that was like. You had only been in the business a few months, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was frustrating after it was done because, Lombardi was feeding a lot of heel lines, and at one
Hmm.
point, which you don't see on the show.
Hmm.
I haven't seen it, but at one, well, they must have edited it because at one point I said, "You got a big mouth." You know what I mean? So we were done with it, and Vince said, "Gee, I'm sorry the set stayed together." And I said to myself, "Ah, damn! If I knew he wanted us to destroy the set, I would have done that." I feel like I missed an opportunity, but you know, um, Lombardi got his big push by receiving a big push, and I wasn't doing that. So,
I've heard.
yeah, I wasn't
Right.
doing that. I don't condemn people if it's their choice. I say it in the nature of whether it's a man or a woman. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If you sleep your way to the top, and Lombardi, I would say, barely made it to the top. Making it to the top is getting a run with Hogan, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, I just, when he got that torn sweatshirt and that cap, I took Strongbow in the corner and I was livid, livid, livid. I said, "I can't work his way to a wet paper bag." I go, he looks clumsy. He's not. I go, he's like,
He
"You want
stayed
to
there
do?"
a long time, though. He was
Well,
there a
oh,
long, long
30
time.
years. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
millionaire. He's a
Yeah.
millionaire.
Oh, wow.
So Chief said, "You want to do what he did?" we can set that up for you. I said, no, I'll keep losing. I'm not doing that. He goes, all right then. And he gave me the 84 line. He said, all right, then sit down and shut up. You know?
I wasn't gonna bring that up, but what was it like? Was it there like tension like that in the locker room because of situations with that individual?
It's not. See, the old WWF back in the 80s, it wasn't tension.
Mm-hmm.
It was worse.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew, so everybody would make fun of him,
Mm-hmm.
especially Joey Morella. You know, who the
Really?
referee, Monsoon's kid. Oh my God, the impression he did of Lombardi was spot on. Spot on. And it, you know, Rick, it was bad because he would ref some of my matches on TV, and he would look down as the fans are there and watching on TV and they're live. They think the referee's looking down to see if I'm okay. Meanwhile, Morella bends over and looks me face to face. Nobody could see his face. And he was kind of like Jim Carrey with his face. He just put the Lombardi face on and started going like this. And I was still selling on the canvas. And when I sold, I had to go like this when I was selling because I just started laughing. But you know, even speaking of Bull James, when we booked him for Dieselmania, I said Lombardi's name. He said, "Listen, don't ever let me catch him on the street." And that's when myself and Bull James bonded.
Wow. I mean, he was let go after 30 years, I think, was the
Yeah, he was.
story came out.
Yeah, he was let go. But you know, I spoke to. I don't want to get any heat on any guys, especially this guy, because he's not a heat kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I did some autograph sessions, and I spoke to one of the guys, and he said, "Yeah, that son of a bitch is a millionaire, Mario. He saved his money, and he was there for 30 years, man. He saved his money." So I'm just happy I don't see him much on the independent circuit.
He's living out west now, I think, or in the Midwest or something to that effect. So
Well, that's good. That's where he can stay. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So, listen, Terry Garvin and Pat Patterson were the same way, but I got to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know Terry Garvin was. I was very close to Terry Garvin. He loved me. I'd walk in the dressing room and go, Mario, quesadilla. You know what I mean? He just really, really good friends with Terry Garvin, and he's the one that booked me mostly,
Mm-hmm.
because he was the assistant booker. And I was never. He had a wife and a couple kids, and I was never aware because he was never out of sorts with me. In fact, Pat Patterson was never out of sorts with me. One day in 1990 in New Haven, when I was getting frustrated, I talked to Pat, you know, and I said, "Listen, I put my time in here. I've been here 6 years. I paid my dues. I go, can I get something? You know?" He goes, "Mario, I like you. The office likes you. Just be patient." And that was the line.
Mm-hmm.
That was the famous line. They always say that through the years. I like you. The office likes you. Be patient. And that particular time, that was like the 6th or 7th time it was said to me. So I got a little frustrated while he walked away, and I said, "What's the matter? My ass isn't cute enough for you." And he turned around. He goes, "What did you say to me?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, No, Mario, what did you say?" I said, "Pat, I didn't say anything." He goes, "You bet you didn't say anything." I said, "No, I didn't say nothing." And I ran the Strongbow because I thought at that point, you know, I was done. But
Yeah.
you know, Strongbow wouldn't. He would never let that happen.
Right.
In fact, I walked away. You know, a lot of people that I do interviews with, they're like, "Wow, you know, good for you. Not a lot of people got to do that." So April 26, 1992, I was in Huntsville, Alabama, and I worked with Rick Rude. So I walked up to the chief and I said, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to be 26 in 2 months. What do I do? He goes, I can't even get my own kid booked. And when he told me that, it hit me so hard because
That was Vincent Young, right? Or Mark Young? Was that who
Mark
that
Young,
was?
yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
it hit me so hard
Mm-hmm.
when he said that, and Mark was a great worker.
I thought so. Yeah.
That hit me so hard. It just really, really hit me between the eyes. And I went home and I looked at my mother and said, I'm done. She goes, "You're done?" I said, I'm done. And the next day the phone rang and she answered the phone, put the receiver to her chest. She said, "It's Terry Gardner." I said, "No." And she said, I'm sorry, Terry's not home." And he said, "Okay." And the phone never rang again, ever. So I left. And it makes sense because I'm glad I didn't stay, because it would have been really insulting to me by 1994 when they faded all of the jobbers out. They were done.
Right.
And that attitude era started. So.
And now they try to bring, one preliminary match probably every month or whatever like that. You know what I mean? To try to when they bring in new talent, they just bring in some local guy to get the shit kicked out of him, basically. So it's not, they try to bring it back. It doesn't work. But you didn't have the option to try to go anywhere else, like WCW or anything like that?
Well, again, another one of my brothers who every now and then I have to sit and listen and get lectured and yelled at, which is Big Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's convinced that I could have went to the WCW, he's more than that. He's convinced that I could have made an incredible run on the independent circuit if I put myself out there.
What about Japan too? I mean, a lot of guys went to
Yeah.
Japan. Yeah.
I found out that I couldn't. My chin was dropped. I was popular in Japan. When I first did the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2013, Joe Bruin called me to do it, and I declined. I said, "I'm not doing it." He goes, "Why?" I go, "I just don't want to do it. I never did them, and I don't want to do them." He goes, "But why?" I said, "Listen, I have my own reasons."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "I have a guy coming all the way from Japan just to meet you." I said, "Why would you commit me when I haven't said yes?" I go, "I'm sorry, he's coming all the way from Japan." And he said, "Could you at least just tell me why you don't want to do it?" I said, "Because if I sit there for 7 hours and sign 2 autographs, I'm going to be mortified that I just was nothing." He said, "Mario, that's not going to happen." I go, it could." He goes, "It's not going to happen. You've never done a wrestling convention." He goes, "You've never done an autograph session. You're nostalgic. People will go nuts if they see you." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And thank God he was right. Because people literally were going by my booth going, "Holy shit, Mario," So I was married at the time, and my wife was with me, and she kind of poked my shoulder and said, "There's a very confused Oriental guy in the middle of the ballroom." And he was just standing there. And then he spotted me, and he did a beeline right to me. And he started yelling 7 feet away from me, "Mancini, Mancini, Mancini." I said, "Hi." He goes, I'm Shu." I said, "How you doing?" She goes, "I come from Japan to see you." I said, "Well, I really appreciate it." He goes, "How come you never come to Japan? We want to see you in Japan." I go, "I'm sorry, I never got there." So, unfortunately, Shu passed away at a very young age. In fact, the day after he got home from the wrestling convention in 2015, I think it was, the plane landed, he went home, and he just passed away from a heart attack. It was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. Joe Bruin and I were all busted up. But so Big Daddy, believes that if I really was aggressive with the independent circuit, I would have done really well and still traveled a lot and really did a lot of independent stuff. when I got out in '92, to be honest with you, I was so heartbroken.
I understand. Yeah.
I was so heartbroken that my answer to people after a year or two that I wasn't wrestling anymore, nor watching it, said, "I don't, you can wrestle other places." I said, "Listen, I played for the New York Yankees, and now you want me to play for the Mississippi Mudslingers." I said, I'm not doing that. I think it was the experience SD and I got, because sometimes Kowalski would lease us out from Kowalski would call the office and say, "We need some talent." And Muskie Sala would do that. And we would go to these independent shows. And when we walked into the dressing room, we got a little bit of an attitude. And sometimes it would be me, SD, Iron Mike Sharp, maybe Leap and Lanny Poffo. But we sat by ourselves in the corner of the dressing room by ourselves, separate from the independent guys. There were some nice independent guys would come up and talk and go, "Hey, how is it there? How's it feel to be there?" and stuff like that. A couple of them, not a lot, but most of them had the attitude of, "Oh, you think you're better than me because you're with the WWF," So I didn't have good experiences in independent dressing rooms when I was with the WWF, and we got reached out. So I just didn't bother until 1999. I was out for 7 years, nothing to do with it, and then I worked. I wasn't even going to do that show, but it was with Bundy. And then in 2007, I started doing some stuff with Tukey Tucker. That lasted about a year, and then Vin the Chin called me and wanted me to train him and put a ring in his backyard. And he and his parents put on some shows at Malillo, and I worked with him a couple times. And then in 2014, I opened up Paradise Alley, and Big Steve, Roma, and then after a few months, you put a wrestling ring up, Perez will sniff it out. So he came walking through the door. Yeah, he came walking through the door, and there you have the 4 partners of Paradise Alley.
I want to ask you a question before we get into Paradise Alley. You were talking about you being leased out to various independents every now. Were you leased out to the Savoldis at one point?
Yeah, I was.
For television, was it a television?
I'm not sure. That was the fallout with Tony Altamore.
Okay.
Because he was going up there, and I didn't want to go. But I knew the only reason why he was taking me is because he would fall asleep driving, because it was up in Maine. So I told him I would go only if he would call Savoldi and tell him I'm not doing any jobs. So he said, okay. So we got up there in the first night, and Savoldi came up to me and said, "Will you do a job for Iron Mike Sharp?" I said, "Absolutely." Without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll do a job for him. I don't have a problem with that. "Thank you, Mario. Thank you." I go, no. I said, "Listen, we're going to tear down the house. We tore down the house in the WWF. We're going to tear down the house." And we did. And then the next night, I worked with Sonny Blaze.
I remember him.
And I ended up, and I worked with him. I was 23. He was 18. And I'm like, "Thanks." I went over on him with a sidewalk slam, and I said, "You okay?" He goes, yeah. And then he goes, "I'm feeling pretty good. I broke my back." I go, "You what?" And now he tells me he broke his back. Then he's like, "Then my mother passed away." I go, "Your mother passed away?" So at the end of the night, I said, hey, you want to go to TV? He goes, "What?" I go, "Do you want to go to the WWF? I'll take you there." And he said, "Yeah." And I came walking in with him. Strongbow goes, "Who's this?" I go, "I work with him, Chief. He's fine." He goes, "All right, get dressed." So Sonny did a small stint, but then he became friends with Terry Garvin. And Garvin offered him an old ring in the warehouse. And Sonny took that ring, and he made a hell of a living renting it out around the country. He just worked with that ring and did pretty well for himself. So
I read recently he opened up a wrestling school wherever the hell he is now under his shoot name. I don't remember what the hell it is.
Sonny Blaze.
Yeah, there was a yeah. I think his name was Al something, if I remember correctly. No,
I don't know, but last I heard he was in Florida.
maybe that's where it was. Yeah, I think last year. I think because you remember John Arezzi, like he was part of John Arezzi's radio show back in the day, and I think they bring back the older episodes and they post them online. And I was listening when they would give commentary and they were saying what he's doing now. You know, basically that he runs a promote or not a promotion but a school. Yeah, maybe it was Florida. I just couldn't remember where.
It was 2014. At that point in my life, it was starting to get a little rough.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my marriage was winding down. We were drifting farther apart. I was having some professional problems at work. And it seemed like everywhere I turned, I was looking the Grim Reaper in the face. So my best friend on the face of this earth is Big Steve Tracy, who worked as Dave Paradise. And he called me up and he said, and he's very blunt. He doesn't pull any punches. So he's like, you got nothing going for you. I go, I realize this. He goes, I rock bottom. I go, this I realize. He goes, you should go back to something that you really love. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, what do you mean? It's wrestling. And I said, well, I'm kind of an old man now for that. You know what I mean? He goes, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I open up a wrestling school. I said, well, I got a problem. I don't have a ring and I don't have a building. And he goes, well, let me work on that. I said, okay. And he found a building and he bought a ring. And he said, why don't you see if Roma wants to come in? So I text Roma. I said, hey, Roma, I'm opening up a wrestling school in East Haven. Are you in? And he just typed YEP. And I said, are you sure you're in? And he typed again, YEP. So I called Big Steve back. I go, Roma's in. And he goes, okay. And, we were looking for a place. We found it on Co Avenue. And we opened up. Holiday was the first student and only student. And we started teaching Holiday. And then slowly, HOP walked in. Matthias walked in. These guys already knew how to work, but with me and Roma, we sharpened them up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I remember the first time I locked up with Matthias. And I said, get me in a headlock. And he grabbed my head with two hands. And I said, what? What are you doing? So it was just a matter of sharpening, smoothing out the edges because they already were pretty good. And we started there, and then we ran I think our first show was September 12th, 2015 at Malillo, and I got on the phone with Tony Ellis and Tito Santana. I brought them in. Yeah, I started calling my friends, and here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what was it like when Holiday came in? Did you see that he was going to be, going to places where he's going?
I looked him dead in the face and said, you're going to go far.
Mm-hmm.
Because he reminded me of the guys from the 80s, like at 6'2", 6'3", 245.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, God bless, Flash Waller. He's an excellent worker. Can't take that away from him. The guy's a good entertainer, but I don't know if he's a $145 or $150.
Is he that much?
I don't know.
I've always said he needs to eat a steak or something.
Yeah,
a few pounds.
He is a hell of a worker. I guess he couldn't be Flash if he was heavier. So
There you go.
I believe the same thing about King Kai. I believe that he's he's coming along well. He reminds me kind of a Rockish kind of guy. You know what I mean? If his body fills out more and everything, he's very promising. But Holiday is probably the biggest alter ego, aside from the one-man gang. Because when gang wasn't working, he had these glasses, and when he didn't have his glasses on, okay, you like this, and he was kind of a quiet guy, kind of just, kind of like that gentle giant that didn't speak much in high school, just sat there with his glasses. And but Holiday's one of the biggest alter egos I've seen. I mean, he came in, he was nervous. He came in, he had those Coke bottle glasses on, his eyes bugging out of his head and everything. And, and he developed this persona of Richard Holiday. He's just a completely different person. When he goes through that curtain, trust me when I tell you, there are no signs of Joe Zimbardi when he walks through those curtains. None. It's all Richard Holiday.
Wow. Tell me about some of the students you have now that, I think there's a breed of students, or the class, I should say, of students. Some of these kids are really, really good. Like you mentioned Kylon King and Flash Waller. Flash style might not necessarily be the style that I prefer, but I think he is very good for what he does, and I think that the two of them really have potential to be going,
Well, like I say, but what Kylon is a very talented guy, and he's going to be very good at cutting promos, and he's very good with his voice and the way he performs, and his wrestling skills are really, really good. And like I said, if he starts filling out more, he's got a legitimate shot. Holiday's on his way. The WWE knows of him, but they also know of his contract.
Right.
So I think his next move is there to the WWE. I think it's a huge gimmick. I think he created a huge gimmick.
He's a social media monster. Like he is on there constantly promoting his character.
Yeah.
And I think that helps him a lot. You know what I mean? When he's not wrestling, he's doing the character on social media, and it works.
Well, he is the new breed of, see, I'm a wrestler. I'll always just be a wrestler. I'm just a wrestler. Greg Valentine will just be a wrestler. Holiday's a performer. And he's the new breed. He's the 2021. I got to do something to market myself. I have to do something, to brand myself, and he did a good job of it. In fact, I walked away from him one time, and I said, "Just don't even talk to me." I said, you're going to be a wrestler. He's like, I'm going to be a performer. I said, no, you're a wrestler. He goes, no, that's not what I'm in this for. And I'm like, don't talk to me. Get away from me. So, but he is a very good wrestler, and but his marketing, what he made himself, his gimmick, I even did his intro to the WWE. I thought it was tremendous. I said, I can see Triple H walking down the hallway, and you're sitting with your foot up on your knee with a Wall Street Journal in front of your face. And Triple H just stops in his tracks, and he looks down, and he pushes the newspaper down and goes, "Who the hell are you?" And he goes, "I'm Richard Holiday. I'm the most marketable man in professional wrestling." And there it starts. And, with the AirPod and One show I went to Dollar General and I bought a $10 pair of AirPods. And I said, I want to see something. I want you to wear these instead of the real thing. And I want you to ask the fans who wants them. And the place went ballistic.
I think I was there for that.
Ballistic. They went ballistic. And it worked. He's a good person. He's a good kid. And he gets the business fully now. And he's a consummate professional. So I don't see anywhere but up for him,
Mm-hmm.
King, I see a lot of promise in. The Haven are a really good tag team.
Mm-hmm.
We're sure a couple inches taller. But they're a good tag team.
Yeah.
They're a good tag team. So you got guys like me and Morzoff and Bull Dread, and Chris Battle to keep things level headed. You know what I mean, with these young kids. I lost one on August 24th. He was there every Monday night, Big Jim. And we're still devastated from that. And I'm sorry that, I had to call Big Daddy like a lunatic on that night. Happened to be on your show.
That's okay, because I felt really bad after, because I knew you were trying, and we thought it was just Diesel Mania. Was it Diesel? No, I mean Rumble was that Saturday, so we were just like we didn't think it was anything. But then he said, "I'll call you right back," and I was like, and then we never said it on air, you know what I mean? But he texted to me, and I was like, "Oh my God," I had just spoken with him myself just a couple of days prior, and he was such a great gentleman. He really was.
He was. He plopped himself next to me the night before he died, and he looked at me. He goes, 6-man tag, Diesel Mania. I said, we're finally going to work together. He goes, yeah, after 5 years, I finally get to work with you. I said, well, just make sure we both get tagged in at the same time. And he goes, what are we going to do? I go, old school, man, not telling you. I'm going to tell you when we get in there. I'm not calling anything outside the ring, just the finish. I just want to know what the finish is. I'll do everything in there, just like we used to do back in the WWF. Even a house show, you knew what the finish was. Or if you didn't, you got the finish, and then it was like, yeah, see you out there. Nothing was, oh, we're gonna lock up. I'm gonna grab you in an armbar. Then I want you to flip and reverse it. I'm like, nothing, like not even close. And he just kind of laughed when I said, I'm gonna call it out there. Don't worry about it. And he just kind of laughed. He went in and did his front rolls, and he was hitting the ropes, hitting the turnbuckles, trying to do an up and over. 300 pounds, he's doing up and over. And he seemed fine. He was happy. It was hard for Jim to be happy at times. He was happy. He was happy in his relationship. He was happy with his job. He was happy with the company. And thank God it was my daughter turned 26 on August 24th, and it was about an hour after we got done with the cake. We were sitting there, and Roma called me, and he said, are you sitting down? I said, as a matter of fact, I am, yeah. He goes, no, Mario, listen to me. This is because Jim was my guy. Everybody knew Jim was my guy. So he goes, this is going to hit you really hard. He goes, it's not going to be easy, okay? I go, just tell me, Roma. He said, Big Jim's dead. And, it was that center ring show in 2016. When I'm watching a clip and I go, that guy's pretty big. And Fa goes, he's not even trained. And what do you mean he's not trained? He's never been trained. I go, then he shouldn't be in a ring. So the clip was over. I made a plea to the camera. I said, Big Jim, come down to Paradise Alley. We will teach you. And then after the show was over, he said, he dates Jade. And I taught Jade from start to finish. She was too afraid of Roma. So I trained her from start to finish. And so I said, get your boyfriend down to the school on Monday. And he came walking through. And, he's been there ever since. And we're going to miss him. He was my guy. All the guys knew he was my guy. Even when he got some heat within the company, they'd say to themselves, to each other, "We can't do anything because that's Mario's guy." So, I'm gonna miss him. He was on the right path. I wish I knew what happened.
There's nothing that came out yet. No.
No, there were never any services or anything.
Okay.
No news about the autopsy or anything. Nothing. So, kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's you guys did a beautiful tribute to him at Rumble in Paradise.
Yeah, thank you.
It was very emotional, and well, shit, I got all teary-eyed during your speech.
Yeah.
So, he's definitely going to be missed. He was, like I said, phenomenal human being, and I've always said this. He was one to, if he sees you in the crowd, he's going to work his way through the crowd to make sure to shake your hand, say hello, and see how you doing and stuff like that, and just at least say hello that's just the guy he was. So,
yeah, he was.
Yeah. So what else would you like to talk about tonight?
Well, we have Diesel Mania coming up on September 25th. That's to, that goes to the support the Michael J. D'Angelo Sports Scholarship Fund. Again, this was, like I say, I give credit where credit's due. Michael J. D'Angelo was a tri-captain in East Haven High School. A very popular kid. He was called Diesel because of the size of his legs. His mother and father called him Diesel. So unfortunately, he passed away in a car accident at the age of 19 years old. And the town was devastated. Needless to say, his parents. It was one of the referees, Dave Olson, who said, do you know the kid that passed away in a car accident? I said, no. He goes, yeah, pretty popular in the town. Parents are popular. I said, I'll look into it. And I talked to Big Steve, and I mentioned it to him. He goes, I'm very good friends with Johnny D'Angelo. He goes, that's a good idea. So he got a hold of John, and he said, listen, we want to put a benefit show on for your kid. And, donate it to the scholarship fund, And so we did the first Diesel Mania. And they've gone well. The only thing after that was my phone started ringing off the hook with charities. And we started our company from 2016 until probably the middle of 2019 or the end was known for straight charity shows.
Mm-hmm.
We did Diesel Mania, Camp Rising Sun. We did a fundraiser for the Malillo Middle School Glee Club, the Branford Animal Shelter, the East Haven Animal Shelter. We're on November 13th. We're doing type 1 to none juvenile diabetes, and we were known for doing the charities. We did the autism show that everybody knows that got screwed up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And Roman, because I take care of the business. Roman takes care of the talent and the production, and I take care of the business. And Roman just at one point he looked at me and said, Mario, and this is my brother for 37 years. And he goes, I love you. Your heart's in the right place. We're going to have to close. Because when we don't have any students coming through the door, we need to make the rent with the shows, and we can't because you give the whole gate to the charity. So Mario didn't do the portion of the proceeds. They were the entire proceeds.
Oh wow.
And I would pay the talent with what we sold for hamburgers and hot dogs, and if we were short, I dug in my pocket. So finally, he pleaded with me and said, "We just can't do it anymore. We can't." So we do Diesel Mania and we do Type 1 to None. We do those two charities a year, and even at that, now I'm bold enough to say, hey, I need the payroll and you can have the rest. You know what I mean? So, there's some issues, unfortunately, because CJ is our hardest working charity. Our hardest. For example, the Middletown baseball team called me and wanted to put on a show in Middletown to benefit the Middletown baseball team. And we had about 63 people there. And I went up to the baseball coach and I go, because I dropped 100 tickets off there. And you figured everybody in the team, if they sold 5 tickets a piece, So I go, did the players sell any tickets? They're like, not one. Okay.
Did
It's
they
for their
try?
benefit, and they didn't sell one ticket. No. DJ is completely the opposite. He'll put 300 people in there. The only snag we have now is that at the JCC, the limit's 140. So unless I can call there by November 13th and they loosened up and can say 175 or 200, because CJ will put their butts in those seats. And he really goes above and beyond. And he's there for every show with his camera, taking shots of the guys.
I see him. Yep.
Yeah. So, he's a part of the Paradise Alley family. And very shortly, I'm going to induct you into the Paradise Alley family, grabbing a mic with Big Daddy. Big Daddy and I are working on that now to pick the show you're going to do that with. So
I'm excited.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to that. So Diesel Mania is the 25th, and then we have a show. We have a very busy October. I'm not going to be able to breathe in October. So October 8th, I'm supposed to go to Test of Strength. They're booking most of my guys, and they're going to do a tribute to Big Jym. I'm really not sure if I'm going yet. I got to see what my daughter's doing. But October 13th, we have the JCC. And October 23rd, we have the Taco Fest in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. And then October 30th, we have the Taco Fest in Hartford. And then, and those are unique shows because we run the show from 12 to 6. So, we put a match out every half hour.
Yeah.
So
I was at the last one in North Haven, and it was match and then a break for a half hour, then match.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah. Then on November 13th, we have Type 1 to None, and then I think it's December 18th, if I'm correct. And then we start back up in January because I have a deal with the JCC for the rest of 2021, and with the exception of July and August, all of 10 months in 2022. So we got a lot going on. I was blessed enough to cut a deal with Fight TV. That was nice. And I'm very appreciative of Fight TV. And let's hope those numbers get bigger. And just doing some good stuff.
I think the fight numbers are going to grow. Just push it out there. Push out the content. You had one show so far, so I'm sure it'll get bigger and grow.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
You know what I mean? As long as people the talent is out there pushing it and promoting it. That's the key behind everything nowadays.
Right,
the pushing. So, well, I'm very glad that you joined me today and that we finally got to get this done. And I want to invite you back sometime in the near future.
Listen, anytime you need me, I'll be here.
Especially to promote your next big event on Fight.
Yeah, that will be Diesel Mania. We'll be on Fight TV, but I trust my guys. Williams is a big part of my company. He's the booker. So I had Williams get in touch with Fight TV, and he called me back and he said, Mario, I think the smartest thing to do is to tape it and then give it to Fight TV on a weekend that they're not too busy, and then air it on Fight in a delay. So we're going to do that because, when I spoke to Fight TV, they said, don't be down. You did good. You were up against 17 other pay-per-views, one of which was an all-women's wrestling match.
Does the NWA show is the same thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be for Fight TV, but it's gonna be delayed. So we're gonna try to do that with most of the shows, as long as Fight TV will have us, and hopefully that works out. All right.
Cool. Well, do you want to give out any contacts, social media, anything like that?
Well, Paradise Alley, professionalwrestling.com. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. Wrestling School. If as the old saying used to be, if you feel like you're tough enough, we're at 662 Co Avenue, Unit 2 in East Haven. Come on down if you're interested in being a professional wrestler, or manager, or referee. And of course, I want to give a shout out to Big Daddy. He's on Facebook as Jay Brony, and he's also on Twitter. So he is one of the hardest working people as far as promoting anything that I've ever seen. He'll literally do it for 10 hours. He's an extreme talent. He's excellent at what he does on the mic. And he is also a very dedicated company guy. It's all Paradise Alley, and he works hard on doing it. And I couldn't be more grateful to have somebody behind my company like Big Daddy. So, you want to check out Big Daddy, and he's got a lot of stuff you can watch, which you'll enjoy.
He's worked with everybody.
Yeah. Listen, Big Daddy has worked with 90% of the people I've worked with. You know what I mean? He's worked with Bundy. He's worked with Terry Funk and the Samoans, and he's worked with a lot of guys that I worked with when I was in the WWF. He worked with them when they got out. So, he's been in the wrestling business for 30 years as a manager, and I'm very fortunate to have a guy like that as a part of my company, because he does work so hard to get the Paradise Alley word out there, and he does it. He's dedicated to it, and he does it a long time. So I appreciate that from Big Daddy.
Okay. So I want to thank you again. And then, Big Daddy is always a guest here, and I'm sure he's going to be coming back on again, especially when you guys got a big event coming up.
Yeah, he's the man. Big Daddy is the man.
All right. Thanks again, Mario.
Thanks, Rick. Not a problem.